Hello and welcome back. Today we've got a very exciting tutorial. We're talking about EBS Snapshots. Now here we've got our account with two regions, two availability zones in each for argument's sake, and the S3 service at the bottom. Now imagine you have an EC2 instance with an EBS volume attached to it. And we already know that an EBS volume is an availability zone level service. So if we had another EC2 instance in another availability zone and we wanted to unattach our EBS volume and reattach it to that one, unfortunately we couldn't do that. So how do we get this EBS volume across there? How do we use the data on the EBS volume with this other EC2 instance? Well, in order to do that, what we would do is create an EBS snapshot. And an EBS snapshot is like an image or like saving your EBS volume at a point in time. And that's very critical to remember. It's a snapshot is a point in time copy of your EBS volume. It is stored in the S3 service and it is visible in your EC2 dashboard. So from there, what we would do is we would restore the EBS volume, but in the different availability zone. And then we would attach it to the EC2 instance. So as an effect, we would have a copy of the original EBS volume at the point in time when the snapshot was taken. Another thing we can do is we can copy across this EBS snapshot to a different region. And this is an important thing to remember. Look out for trick questions about this on the exam. Indeed, as we remember from previous tutorials, S3 is a global service. However, as you also may recall, when we were creating S3 buckets, we had to pick the regions. Even though they're globally visible, buckets live in regions. And this is one of the ways this plays out, and that's that these EBS snapshots, which are stored in S3, are only visible in the region where they're stored. So you have to copy it over. So once we've copied it over, if we have an EC2 instance somewhere in that region, we can again do the same procedure and recreate the EBS snapshot at that point in time and attach it to that EC2 instance. And here's a quick text summary of how this works. Now let's have a look at one more thing which is very important to understand, and that is how EBS snapshots are incremental. So let's say you have an EBS volume and you've created 3 snapshots over time. Snapshot A, then maybe a few hours later snapshot B, and a few days later snapshot C. Well, snapshot A will be an exact copy of the EBS volume. Snapshot B is going to be smart. It's going to look at your volume, and let's say you had 10 gigabytes, and it will look at what changed compared to snapshot A. Well, let's say in those few hours, you only changed 4 gigabytes of the 10 that you totally had stored on snapshot, on the EBS volume when you took snapshot A. So now a snapshot B is going to only store the new 4 gigabytes, the updated 4 gigabytes, and is going to reference the previous 6 gigabytes, which haven't changed. It's going to reference them in snapshot A. And that way, what happens is you're saving on storage costs. Remember, all of these snapshots are stored in S3, and you're going to need to pay for the storage cost of keeping them there. Well, what's the point of taking a full snapshot of the EBS volume if the first 6 gigabytes haven't changed and they're already stored in snapshot A? And that's why these snapshots are incremental. And let's look at snapshot C. Let's say you added a new 2 gigabytes on top of the existing 10. Well, snapshot C is only going to store the new 2 gigabytes. It's going to reference the 4 gigabytes in snapshot B and the original 6 gigabytes in snapshot A. So that's how incremental snapshots work. And another thing to important understand, the reason for this is to make it more efficient and cost effective. So there we go. There's another text summary. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, enjoy the cloud.